Recording in progress.
People are going to start talking, you know.
You're all set.
All right, thank you. All right, I want to welcome everybody to September 10th Board of Health meeting. Anyone who intends to speak tonight is asked to sign in to presenters table. If you'd like to make a public comment, please come to the microphone and introduce yourself. Your comments are limited to 2 minutes, and the Board of Health will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised during public comments. Any matters related to agenda items should be saved for that time, for that item. For those attending via Zoom, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. So, we are still in flux here at the Board of Health. So some things that people may think they're going to be getting done will not be. But at this moment, we're going to have to just go down our agenda and figure it out as we go. Our first thing on our minutes, our approval tonight was our minutes, but I'm the only one here who can vote on them, and Katie is out sick, so we're going to pass.
I could vote on them, but
Which one can you vote on?
Not the July one,
I did watch that, so I
You
don't
did
know.
watch July?
but you weren't a member yet,
I
right?
had been approved the day before, I think, for the July 9th
Were you
one.
sworn in?
Oh, I wasn't sworn in yet.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Because I would love to have those names approved. This is like the third time
I'm
we're
so
moving them.
sorry.
But
So
no, that's
sorry to
okay.
disappoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to have to wait on that no matter what.
So,
So I think, if I may, I think that under circumstances where boards change over, as far as open meeting law, there's allowance for people to vote to approve the minutes, even if they weren't members or on that board, for the purposes of getting the minutes approved if there aren't a quorum. Because even if Katie's here, you still need to have a quorum of 3 people voting. You can't have 2 people vote,
Well, it
or
would
you
be
don't
enough.
have a quorum voting. So we don't have to deal with that tonight, but feel free to look into that. But
I did, actually.
and that was not correct?
Tom, what we just read,
Yeah, the rule of necessity is what.
The rule of necessity is what it is. So it's not, if there's a quorum that can vote, then that's what has to happen. But if there's
Yeah.
no quorum that was previously there, there's a rule of necessity that can be utilized. But let's
Okay.
make sure that we get it right before we do that. But I think,
but also there wouldn't be a quorum because Katie's not here.
but even if Katie was here, the 3 of us weren't. So you need 3 people voting to make a quorum.
Right?
You can't have,
And if it's only Katie, and then it wouldn't be enough.
somebody would have to utilize the rule of necessity to get the minutes passed.
Well, and I think that would be
Casey, whoever.
Casey,
It
right?
doesn't- Yeah,
But
Casey would be the
but
next. in
Casey,
line.
Katie is our other voting member who was present at that meeting.
Right.
So that's why I'm thinking no.
All right, so we'll just.
No, not tonight. I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring it up, yeah.
All right, so we're going to sit on the minutes till the next meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to get them done and clear our Murphy desk.
Okay, but you can do the August one. Yeah, August.
Now, old business, we're going to be discussing the septic regulations for the Target Watershed Management Plan implementation. We are going to be doing some things within the next months. We will need to advertise a public hearing to take any public comment. And second, we will need to vote, and we will need to, read your own writing.
That was.
And we'll have to get the DEP and town council to approve any things that come up in the next meetings. So, anybody would like to talk about that?
Sure, I'll sort of introduce it. So this is just for the purpose of discussion, so anybody thinking that we may vote on these tonight, that's not a possibility, nor would it be, I don't think, appropriate, because the board has not taken these up as a board yet. And I know the Board of Health has done things a little bit differently around regulations, but it is somewhat standard to have board members draft regulations that go to the board and be discussed in open session like this amongst the board about issues they may have, or general support of it in order to get it moving forward into one direction. And that's how I've been involved with regulations on the select board and other bodies as well. So basically, we received a letter from the select board asking the Board of Health to roll back the triggers, essentially, while the planning process continues. And last night, we had a meeting with the select board, a joint meeting of the Board of Health and the select board, during that meeting. It seemed quite clear to me anyways that the select board and the town is moving towards potentially much more expansive sewering, but also an implementation method for septic systems, if we do go down that road, that would be more of a phased, proactive, public project, which would potentially qualify it for SRF funding. So in the meantime, what I've done is I've sort of gone back to the regulations that were in place prior to when the triggers were enacted, which are referred to as the 2017 regulations, but they were actually the regulations that were in effect up until late January of this year when the new regulations went into place. And essentially what I've done is gone back to those regulations, and I have proposed that in enacting those regulations, we needed some more restrictive regulations which would require any new systems or upgraded systems. So if you have a failure, you need to upgrade, that those would have to be installed with a retrofit-ready design, which is engineered so that a nitrogen reduction system could be dropped in. And then, and also to go further, it would require an administrative consent order to ensure future compliance with the approved targeted watershed management plan, wherever that winds up. And so what that does is it creates basically an enforceable action on a new system that goes in the ground. We don't know what systems are going to wind up in the sewer district yet. We don't know what systems are going to be targeted in sort of nitrogen management areas yet. All that stuff's still to be decided. And so I think, my goal in doing this is to ensure that new systems that are going in the ground have this ACO, this enforceable action that's tied to whatever the town determines to do with its financial planning, assistance putting these things in, if that's the way the town determines to go. So right now there's just seems to be inadequate financial support. We just don't have the structure. The financial analysis has not been completed. We don't know how much we're sewering. We don't know exactly where we're sewering. We don't know where these systems will wind up being needed in order to meet the targeted watershed management plan, which to anyone who doesn't know, it's TMDLs is a total maximum daily load of nitrogen. In each sub-abatement has separate reductions that are required to be met. And over the 20-year period, we need to remove the percentage required in each sub-abatement. And so it may be that the town, just for instance, the town could decide to sewer up to a certain sub-abatement, leaving the other sub-abatements having to be treated through these nitrogen reduction systems. We just don't know yet. There's just still a lot of planning that's underway, and I think there was also comments that we got back from MEPA and from Mass DEP that called for the town to clarify how it will transition away from a reactive strategy of sales, failures, and additions to an intentional enforceable framework that delivers verifiable nitrogen reductions tied to phased implementation. In other words, the other thing they said was basically that, when you propose a sewer, there's a timeline to install. Everyone has to install by a certain date. Those things are written in, and it's proactive. They know that they're going to get those nitrogen reductions within a certain time. Currently, we're using just Board of Health triggers to achieve nitrogen reduction through the EIA systems, and those are randomized, reactive is what the term that DEP called them, because they rely on somebody to do something in order to get there, but there's no guarantee that these are going to fall in the appropriate watershed or fall in a sewer district, which essentially becomes a redundancy. Sewer systems are very expensive. Having a lot of systems, IA systems go in the ground where we're going to sewer is basically either reducing our overall nitrogen reduction in that area because the sewer performs better, or if you allow that EIA system to remain, if you force someone onto the sewer, then it's just costing people double. And then I don't want to get too far into detail here. I'd rather just get into like looking at the regs together. But essentially, that's the major difference between the previous regulations and what's proposed here. And I don't know if the board's had a chance to read through them and if there's any particular questions, or if I could sort of go through the changes on here briefly. It's up to you, Ken, how you want to do that.
Anybody in the board can ask if they have any questions about any of the regulations or any thought process on any of this. I know everybody, you knew, I know, everything's new. You know,
Yeah.
Mike, I thank you for, I get too much stuff to do. I appreciate you going through some of this the minutia, digging down into
Yeah.
these holes. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask Sarah, Casey.
Do you want to go through the main points?
Yeah, sure. So right here, I added a purpose under subsurface sewage disposal system. And I think the purpose is pretty clear. It's basically what I laid out, that any new systems would be required to have a retrofit-ready design with an administrative consent order ensuring future compliance with the targeted watershed management plan. And that coordinates septic upgrades with the select board accepted proposed sewer district and phasing while maintaining interim appropriate protections. The purpose is to provide clear triggers, timelines, and variance procedures consistent with 310 CMR 15.410. And these interim regulations may be amended as needed upon approval of the town's targeted watershed management plan or watershed permit. And yeah, basically I've added a little bit of language to give the board some guidance in administering them in there too, which is, and this is all, can be discussed and debated amongst the board. I think it makes sense to have this in here. And it says, in administrating these regulations, the board shall protect public health and the environment while, to the extent practicable, minimizing unnecessary burdens on property owners and the community, including potential impacts on year-round housing. And then cites the Mass General Law and CMR that's involved with septic regulations. So that's basically purpose. Then it goes into the retrofit-ready septic design. And one of the things that I did in here, this requires that all these designs that come in must have the adequate tank capacity, sufficient access and space for the site layout, the reserve area or other site capacity to support additional treatment technology, and engineering and permitting sufficient to allow future installation without substantial redesign. And that's important because if somebody does a retrofit design and then the town, if somebody puts in a system, a Title V system, and the town says you're going to have to upgrade and you don't have this engineering and permitting sufficient, you'd have to go back and get it re-engineered. So you're talking about an additional $6,000 that would save homeowners by doing this upfront while they do their Title V design. The other major difference here, go ahead.
So I'm kind of assuming you have, but have you spoken to engineers who would be required to do this? Have they said anything about the cost addition to doing
Yeah, it's
a
a
retrofit?
very minimal cost to design, difference between designing a Title
Okay,
V
great.
and designing an IA system, yeah. The Nitrex is a little bit more, just because it's two systems in there, but it's marginal.
Okay, great.
Compared to the overall cost. And then the other thing I did was I looked at, I spoke with the health agent in Tisbury. They have a effluent limit of 13 milligrams per liter or less as their basis for their acceptable nitrogen reduction systems. There's really only two systems that fit into that category. That's nitro and Nitrex. Part of the problem we've had with engineers, and I've spoken to a couple engineers that have designed systems that are not willing to design a nitro system in the town of Wellfleet because the septic regulations that we currently have define it as 10 milligrams or under, which only one system actually is certified at that level. So, there are engineers drafting and designs for nitro systems, but there are other engineers saying that's not supported in your regulations because
I remember
these are
seeing that.
certified at 11. And so this sort of just gives the leeway for if another system comes in that's performing at 12 or 13 or 11, the board can allow those. It could also get strengthened over time, but currently there's only 2 systems that fit under 13. It could be reduced to 12. I know one other town has 12 as their limit, so that's kind of up to the board what they
And
want to do.
I'm assuming that you did this because the nitro systems have been priced lower than the nitrix.
Well, you cannot require a single proprietary system to be the only system that's allowed in a municipality. That's just, you're really walking on shaky legal grounds if you do that.
Okay,
I
so
think the
multiple
intention was
reasons.
to allow nitro the whole time.
Yeah.
The health department has explicitly said we'll accept nitro systems as part of this.
It was just the
But
language.
barring any certification process, like how do you, as an engineer, say, well, yeah, it may perform better under third-party, data, but it's certified at,
So this is written so that nitro and nitrix can be included.
yes,
Under-
and
under
any
these
system that may fall under that number in the future.
future, mhm.
Right, could be included in that. Obviously, as you go up in nitrogen and the less you sewer, the more systems have to go in the ground to meet that that reduction in nitrogen. So that's the retrofit-ready design aspect of it. And then in order to deal with this, we need to have variances that are spelled out. So on the back is just, let me see if this is important here. Oh, yeah, the administrative consent order that you would have to enter into would have to be approved by town council. And it would be, it shall state that if the property is designated for upgrade under the approved targeted watershed management plan or the watershed permit, the system shall be upgraded to include such technology within 2 years of written notice by the Board of Health or in accordance with a coordinated phased upgrade schedule established under the applicable plan or permit. So either way, if the town doesn't get it together or can't figure out a legal structure that works to do this as a public utility, the Board of Health can still act under that ACO and say, you have 2 years to upgrade. That's in line with the cesspool upgrades requirements that we had previously, that 2-year window. I think it's a reasonable time frame to get engineering, construction, and everything else done.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'd get people to act sooner, but we all know how long, I think anybody who's tried to get engineering done recently knows how long that can take. So,
Okay, great. I appreciate that we have options there depending on what happens.
and there is a clause under this because basically by doing this, you're creating a situation where some people have put these systems in. And so under here, it says notwithstanding any prior approvals or plan endorsements, the property owner shall complete any required upgrade in compliance with Title, oh, this is the same thing that I was reading before, that I thought I was reading, sorry. Right, okay, this clause basically says that if the system's no longer approved by the time you have to put it in, it's no longer compliant, you can't put that in. And that's done because you cannot have a permit that's accepted for over 3 years. So if it went further down the line and that system was no longer a compliant system, the town would not be legally allowed to let that in. So that's what that clause is, where it's in italics. Then the variances are pretty standard. These are based on variances that the town already had in the regulations and other towns. I did change the financial hardship regulations. That could sort of be modified, and I'm curious to see what town council would say about that, just because it's not tied to, the previous financial hardship was tied directly to failure to be approved for the septic loan. And that doesn't necessarily constitute the only financial hardship that the board should maybe consider. And that was a difficult one to kind of pick through and figure out how to do that. So basically, I thought the best way to do that was to have people who apply for a financial hardship apply upon a board-approved hardship application that's demonstrating the substantial financial hardship to install the EIA, and that would have to be worked out, I think, later with the legality of what would be required under that application process to make it enforceable and not arbitrary in those decisions. It's kind of difficult because you can't really have just an arbitrary financial determination.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea to have it be
Yeah.
a standardized application.
Yeah, and that application can change without changing the regulations.
Yep,
And so if we find fault with it later down the road, then we can deal with that.
yep.
So
It seems like that's going to be common.
the financial hardship,
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say. I mean, these are,
Well, hopefully,
Also-
there's a reduction in the need for these systems with the
and not just.
change in regulation.
And not just that, right now, we just don't have financial support for these systems baked into this. And part of the reason why these regulations, I think, went forward was the idea that we're going to receive SRF funding, which was withdrawn, like it didn't actually qualify or for the SRF funding, which meant, I mean, that was only $250,000, wasn't a tremendous amount of money, but it was something. And really, the town needs to have an understanding, in my opinion, that of like what these things are going to cost, how many we're going to need, what the level of support we need to offer people to do these if we're going to use them, and how that's going to be structured. And then the town ultimately has to vote at town meeting, because that's going to come straight out of the tax base to subsidize the systems. And so hopefully that will all happen, but this is in here in the event that it doesn't, and we're forced to act as a Board of Health separately. Or if we start seeing worse conditions, things aren't moving fast enough.
Yeah.
There's a 20-year time horizon. So the Board of Health has to retain the authority to move forward without the town too. And so that's why that variance applies. You know, if there's not financial support, then we have to deal with that.
Yep,
That would also require an ACO. So if somebody had a financial hardship that you approved, you could potentially grant them an administrative consent order allowing them to install a certain system or repair their system without this, with an ACO, that it would have to be done upon the sale of the property or whatever
Yeah.
is determined by the board at that time. So, something like that. I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that. I think if the town's going to take this on as a municipal project, then a lot of these things become less important. But
Yeah.
you're still going to have issues by the water, because there is the IA systems that are required by the wetland buffers.
yep.
There's the ACOs. I don't think we really need to go through all these. I think they need to be reviewed by town council. I would read them, but my hope is tonight that we can just decide whether we feel comfortable with this framework, to send it off to town council for comment, and to schedule a public hearing to get public comment, and just start that process moving forward. Because I know there's a lot of people just sort of waiting to figure out what's going on. And I did talk to the building inspector, and he informed me that building permits are down 30% this year over last year. So it's a substantial number. He did tell me he didn't see that. He came from Eastham right before this, so they weren't seeing the same kind of drop in permits there. So, and I know it's affecting home sales. It's affecting people moving forward with things. So I think it's important to get the ball moving. So the as-built cards, none of that has been changed. This is all from the previous set of regulations. The cesspool upgrade requirement, that's still, now this would be a part of these regulations as well. So it would require upgrades of cesspools, but it would be the same situation where they'd have to be retrofit ready, unless they're in the sensitive area by a wetland, the wetland buffer, where then they would have to be upgraded to the IA system, because that was already in the regulations in 2017. or all the way up until 2024. So we're not going back and making anything softer from there. Except now cesspools have to be upgraded. They're considered a failed system. That remains from this set of regulations.
That went into effect in January.
The one, yeah.
Okay.
But instead of having to go to EIAs, they would
Yeah,
go
just
into
a
the
title.
retrofit ready with the administrative consent order.
Yep.
So that, as things happen, we'll have that enforceable action on those upgrades. If people decide, hey, I'm just going to put the nitro in so I don't have to deal with it later, that's totally up to them. They will be allowed to do that, or they can enter into this retrofit ready with the administrative consent order.
Yep. So then we got failed system upgrade requirements.
Yeah, failed system upgrade requirements. So this just adds some language around proposed and approved sewer districts. I imagine this is going to change a little bit as we go, but because we don't know where they are. So the failed systems, in the case of a system failure located within the proposed or approved sewer district, and where a failure is determined by the Board of Health to be technical in nature and not a threat to public health, the board may allow the continued use of the system until the property is connected to the sewer in accordance with a timeline established by the board. And this should say, subject to the requirement of any applicable administrative consent order with the Board of Health or Mass Department of Environmental Protection. This is there because basically sometimes we have system failures that are only local failures. So the distance to groundwater under Title V from the state is different than the distance to groundwater under local regulations. And there may be something where the failure is sort of like based on just distance to groundwater, but not to the point where, the Title V failure on these issues where there's like a real estate transaction or something like that, under state Title V, it's failed if the leaching components are inside of the groundwater. Like once they've entered it, that's failed under Title V, as far as I know. The local regulations require 4 feet, I think, under pre-95 systems and 5 feet under post-95 systems. Is that correct? Ground,
I think it was
It-
5 and then 4.
5 and 4. It's 5 for newer systems, 4 for older systems. Part of the issue is we have a lot of leach pits in the ground in this town, and we've had, especially in sewer districts, rising groundwater levels due to the fact that we have town water getting pumped into the ground in areas where we are also discharging that groundwater through a septic system to an area where we're not pumping it out. So we're seeing groundwater rise in the central district that's going to get sewered. And so if you start having real estate transactions, you're going to see a lot of failed systems in the sewer district just based on that groundwater distance.
Okay.
So if you have, it's supposed to be 4, it's 3.5 feet, we know the sewer's going in, the board can make that decision. It's not binding us, but you could say.
It's an allowance.
It's an allowance
within our
that-
power.
Yeah,
in the
so we
future.
say, hey, it's going to be like 3 years. We're going to force you to monitor the system, test wells. We want to make sure there's not bacterial contamination.
Yeah, and we could still require them to upgrade if we felt like it was a threat to public
Yeah,
health.
this
Okay.
is just giving the board some discretion over doing that. And that's pretty common. That was what was done in Orleans. That's how they've dealt with it in Orleans.
Great.
So then nitrogen reducing systems. This is the use of nitrogen reducing systems required when there is a variance to the required 100-foot separation. That's from the regulations, prior regulations. So that's
do
all,
with
the
the
black is prior regulations, and then it adds a nitrogen reducing standard. This may be controversial amongst board members with the nitrogen reducing standard. I went back and forth on this because I have a lot of difficulty with the requirement to upgrade to provisional systems. The board can make this determination, and I want to highlight that. Basically, the way the DEP has written the certifications for provisional systems is that they're not intended for general use. And so when you mandate them to go in the ground before there's a general use permit, you are essentially using them as general use. The state doesn't do that in their language. If we were to not do any targeted watershed management plan, the state would require you to put in best available nitrogen reduction technology at a level of 10 milligrams or less, but then it says if no such system exists that is authorized under general approval, more or less, then the best system
Next best.
available,
Yep.
which is 19 milligrams per liter.
Okay.
And so I thought it was prudent to basically write it like this, which I think creates a carrot instead of a stick.
Okay.
So, and it's a little bit, I did it in a way that was very intentional. So it says any nitrogen reducing technology shall be designed to achieve an effluent total nitrogen concentration of equal or less than 13 milligrams per liter, certified by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. Where no Mass DEP general use technology is certified to achieve 13 milligrams, a Mass DEP approved general use nitrogen reducing technology may be installed provided the system is retrofit ready pursuant to section 601A. That would mean that if they put in an IA system, they'd also have to have a retrofit ready design, which would be essentially a Nitrex
Yeah.
system, because that's the only one approved to go after that.
Yeah.
So then it says systems installed that achieve equal to or less than 13 milligrams per liter may be eligible for financial assistance from the town of Wellfleet. And so rather than design something which would have to be an IA with an ACO to upgrade, where you'd wind up with basically 2 IA systems on your property, people could just opt to use the nitro system on a voluntary basis, which I think is more in line with the intent of provisional use. So that's why I did that. So I think it works in some way, because if you have to design an IA system that's at 19 milligrams, but you also have to have it designed for the Nitrex component,
To be retrofit ready.
and then you get the cost of doing that Nitrex nitro thing. I mean, Nitrex Advantex or whatever it is, which is 80 or 90,000, people may just elect to get the financial assistance from the town to install the nitro system, but it's on a voluntary basis.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a little bit convoluted, but I think it's,
Okay. Thank you for
that's the
explaining.
intent.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that.
That's the intent. And then the final part, that's it. We're almost done.
Mike, just
Yeah.
that, last night in our joint meeting with the select board.
Sarah, you may want to get closer to your microphone.
Oh, yeah, you got to talk right into it, Sarah.
All right.
Yeah.
Last night at our joint meeting with the select board, there was a comment, a suggestion that we consider maybe just removing that italics
Yeah.
section of that talks about financial assistance from the town of Wellfleet, not because that's not a good idea and we don't want to do it, but to remove it from the policy document itself.
Yeah, I would agree if it said financial assistance is available from the town of Wellfleet, or there's a certain number. I know in the 2025 regulations, it does talk about different financial assistance models in the regulations, so I don't really have a problem with it being in there. If the board doesn't want to see it in there, that's fine. I just thought it was important for engineers to see that when they view the regulations, to understand that if they use one of the provisional systems, there may be financial assistance
gonna say,
available to it.
You use very soft language, it's maybe, so,
Yeah, we don't know what it's going to
yeah,
be, but
so,
if the town determines it's going to subsidize these systems to whatever level, they can at least ask about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing concrete in there, so I'd prefer to leave it just because of the intent of why I wrote it the way I did.
yeah.
But
It doesn't seem to
it's-
hold us to anything, so I feel like.
It's not really up to us, it's the town's responsibility to determine the financial assistance.
Yeah.
Not us, but I think it's fair to say that the town's not going to offer financial assistance for systems that are above, that are 19 milligrams, because you're only getting a
Small reduction,
small reduction. I mean, that,
yeah.
yeah. I
So
mean,
I would love to hear the last point, if that addresses your issues, Sarah. Okay.
Yep, just raising
I'm
it.
just trying to keep.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, because I did think about that after Josh made that recommendation. And typically I agree that like things that may change or things that might not,
Happen.
that's why I put the financial assistance, the financial hardship thing in a separate application where the details are.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go and amend the regulations to change the details of the
Yeah,
application
that was well
form.
thought out, yeah.
But this is really a maybe type thing. I want them to understand that they can ask about that to the health department
Yeah,
when they read the regs, basically.
yep.
The last thing here is under the nitrogen, okay. Yeah, this is kind of an important one, and this is maybe has to be beat up by the board a little bit. But this is something that will probably change once we know, and then it may only be approved sewer systems, and maybe down the road, if it doesn't look like we're meeting the nitrogen reduction levels because we can't get the sewer in areas fast enough within the 20-year time frame, then this would probably have to be amended. But for the time being, during this planning process, I think it's important to be in here. But basically, this is for the nitrogen reduction standing in nitrogen reducing systems, still under 607. For properties located within the boundaries of the approved or proposed sewer district formally accepted by vote of the select board, nitrogen-reducing technology shall not be required at the time of new installation or upgrade. All such systems shall be retrofit-ready in accordance with the design standards set forth in Section 601 and shall require the execution of administrative consent order with the board to allow for future installation of nitrogen reduction technology if required under the approved targeted watershed management plan or watershed permit. If a property is subsequently removed from the proposed sewer district, the system shall be upgraded to include nitrogen-reducing technology within 2 years of such removal or in accordance with the coordinated phased upgrade schedule established under the applicable targeted watershed management plan or watershed permit implementation plan. Again, that repeats the same language, but these are systems that would normally have to be IA systems, and that's why it needs to be thought through. But like I said, there's a lot of sewering that's going to be going on within the 100-foot setback to wetlands. Not everywhere, though, and so I think as far as it goes right now, well, that's still in planning progress, and I think it's important for everyone to understand the process a little bit about how the watershed permit works, because it's a little different than the targeted watershed management plan. The watershed permit we're required to apply for by 2030. That's the deadline. I don't think the town is going to wait that long to do that. I think the town's really in a proactive mode to try and get this permit from DEP. That said, we're not on the clock for the 20 years until we receive the watershed permit. And so we want to be prepared to, as soon as those things happen, move on things that have to be moved on. But the reason why the DEP is giving us, from when you file a notice of intent, those 2 years, and then an additional 5 years to file for a watershed permit, is for planning purposes. Because in DEP's comprehensive wastewater management documents, they cite over and over the need for equitability and financial financial planning, like basically to ensure that you're doing this in a financially viable way, and you're not costing people twice. You're not making people pay twice. And so that's really the overlying intent of this during this planning process. And it may be that at a certain point we have to review this section if it looks like our sewer phases are way too far out, or there's certain areas, once we know they're in a nitrogen management area that's going to be EIA systems, we'll probably have to revise that section. But I think for now it's prudent to keep it in there. But that, open for questions about any of that stuff, or or whatever.
You guys got any other questions?
I have a really basic question.
Those are the
and
best
sorry-
ones.
Sorry if it's too basic,
No.
but, you know, the municipal long-term timeframe is like 20 years. That's a long time. And then when I see within 2 years, needing to upgrade within 2 years, and just the monumental cost to families that this involves, I'm curious, how do we arrive at 2 years? And maybe that's a regulation.
No,
but-
it could be differently, but see, it's upgraded at the time when the property's, so like basically, if a property is determined to need treatment from a nitrogen reduction septic system, and once that determination's made, you're already under an ACO. So you would have already had to put one of these in anyways, especially in this scenario, because even under the old regulations, you would have had to put one in. The only reason you're not is because you're in a sewer district. So you're given the latitude to install a regular system because the sewer is going to go by your property, or at least that's what's proposed. As that's removed, then you would be notified, hey, your property's going to, if your property is in an area that's within the 100-foot buffer, you're going to have to upgrade now. You're no longer in the sewer district. The 2-year grace period is actually a pretty long time because normally they would have had to upgrade right away under the regulations. And that's our previous regulations going back to 2017 when they added that provision. But under the other one, basically, the town's going to have to figure out a financial framework to do that, but 20 years can go rather quickly.
Yeah.
And so if the town's going and saying, okay, we have all these areas, we know we have to install, let's say, 700 systems or something, whatever the number is. Right now, under the original plan, it was like 2,050 or something like that, which is a lot. If the town has to do 900, they know where they have to go. They can create bounds that are modeled based on having the highest impact to the watershed the quickest, whatever they use for modeling. And then they can have a phased timeline. And so that's why it always refers to that other thing. But the time and when it's determined and when the Board of Health makes that determination, gives written notice, is sort of like up to the town, up to the Board of Health at that point, or the town, depending. And so then, if the financial burden is there, then they can come back in and apply for that variance or hardship variance, if they can't meet that within the 2 years. And so that's why the hardship is there.
This
Got
is
it.
already, okay.
Yeah. Sorry if I over-explained anything. I tried to make it concise, but it's a lot.
Well, I want to thank you, Mike, for doing this work. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions?
There's going to be future opportunity, right, for people
Yeah,
to give
so-
input?
Yeah, well, we are not going to be voting on this at all today.
Yep.
There'll be our town, the next meeting, we'll have an open hearing, and we will talk about this, and we'll vote on these next meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mike and the board.
Sure.
How do you, in what time frame do you want this available to the community to be looking at? Like, when is the appropriate time for other people to be able to look?
Well, I think what my hope is that we can get a consensus from the board to have this reviewed by town council and just set a public hearing, kind of as soon as we can, but it would be kind of up to when the board can meet, to just get the ball rolling on this. And then during that public hearing, the way I've always dealt with public hearings is, the board would deliberate, or either one or the other. We'd take testimony from the audience, then the board can deliberate on that and deliberate on things amongst themselves. And if it's not an appropriate time to vote to pass them because there's issues that come up, we just continue the public hearing. So my hope is just to sort of get this moving towards town council and to set up a public hearing.
So you would send this to town council, get their approval, and then I would put it up on the website or make it available, and in 2 weeks before the hearing?
What were you guys doing before? The week or 2 weeks? It
We were-
depended on the
weeks.
changes.
It was
Trying
2
to make it
weeks.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
or when the public notice went out.
I think for the intent of the public hearing, I think we could post this as it is and then get comments from town council. In the meantime, bring those to the public hearing and discuss those. But I think that's
like that
feasible.
idea.
Making it available now, not waiting for town council?
If we want public comment, I feel like it's fair to put this out now.
Yeah, because I think town council is going to have comments that we can also address at the same
At the
meeting.
same time, yep.
Well, let's hear from the audience before we decide if we're going to send this to town council. Yeah, can Tom go first, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for timing purposes, if you send these up to town council and they do the review, they may have to go look at state regs and see how they tie in. So I'm going to say it could take 2 to 3 weeks for council to turn something around. The other point I wanted to make that Michael had mentioned a couple of times relative to the financial assistance and how we put that application together. There are a number of templates out there right now, be it from housing, housing
Affordable housing.
sliding scales or other types of things. Now, we may not want to change those numbers. We may not want to use the 30% of median and 50. We may want to go 80, 100, and so that people in a little bit higher income bracket, but still not at all wealthy, have the ability to access the financial assistance on a sliding scale. The other thing that I would do with that is when we put that program together, and this would be subject to the select board, but have a timed repayment period. So if you put the system in tomorrow and you decide to sell your house in 3 months, you have to pay some of that back. And that's what they do with the rehab loans for housing. Over a
Right.
period of time, the amount of payback drops over time to over a 10-year period or a 15-year period, so that there wouldn't be speculation. We'll get the town to put up half of the money and then we're going to sell the place. Okay, that's what we want to avoid. So we want to have some sort of scaled down over time repayment clause.
And that's all stuff that's going to be worked through the select board.
It's got to be worked through the select board, and we got, the key here will be, what are the numbers that we're using? What is the upper income? What is the lower income? What are the percentages that we're going to provide based on those numbers?
And how much the town is sewering, obviously, will
Right,
play
well,
into
that's all
that
gonna-
stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
Thank you, Tom.
thank you.
Anybody else? Identify yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Chris Urban. I've come before this board and the select board on a number of occasions, and I have an ACO or variance request in front of you tonight, but I'm not coming as part of that necessarily. I first wanted to just echo, Mr. Chairman, what you said, and thank you, Mr. DeVasto, for taking the time to look at this. It's been a long time coming, as a lot of us know. So I know town council, I'm sure, has a lot going on, but I think this is an issue that is impacting so many people. I would really, if possible, encourage town council to prioritize the review of this to, if possible, speed it along. So that's comment number one. And the second thing is a question. Today there are triggers. So as I think many people know, I'm working to develop attainable housing. One is new construction, and I understand in new construction, that's new systems. We just talked about it. It would need to be made retrofit ready, which we're prepared to do. I also have a property that is an existing Title V system. Under the current regulations, that needs to be upgraded because it's a trigger. I just would like, if possible, to have some clarification. If you're just selling a home that has a non-failed working Title V today to somebody else, do you have to sign an ACO when that happens under these new regulations? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good question, though, but.
I can answer that under here, what I've proposed. If it's a non-failed system and does not need to be upgraded, you're not adding any design flow, that would be considered an upgrade, then you would not need to sign an ACO because it's a completely passing system. If it's a system that fails because of too close to groundwater, or you're adding design flow to the property, additional bedrooms, basically, then you would have to upgrade, you would have to do a retrofit-ready design. You'd have to come into compliant Title V with a reserve area, retrofit-ready with an ACO. But the ACO, should be noted that the ACO is not a guaranteed requirement to upgrade. It's sort of depends on how things play out. But there are towns that have gotten to the point where they're saying, new systems just have to be IA systems, upgrades have to be IA systems. There's not many of those, and they're only in specific areas. So Falmouth is moving in that direction. If you're in one of their zones that is a nitrogen buffer or whatever, then they're requiring it, or they're proposing to. They have not voted on it yet. Most of the towns where there's sewers going in, they're trying to avoid having enhanced INA systems going in where they're going to be sewering. So it's consistent with what's going on in other
Thank you, Mike.
municipalities.
But the thing is, you're going to have to realize, none of this has changed until we have our public hearing next month.
Yeah.
At all,
No,
and we
thank
vote
you.
on it, we get town council. So all the triggers are still in effect at this moment, and
Yeah.
probably will be for the next month, possibly two.
Okay, so to that point, I did sign a 6-month, I was granted a 6-month waiver when I bought this house, 6 months to upgrade to the EIA. So again, it's a little bit of a time is of the essence concept, because the months are clicking by on that. And so the waiver that I have, I may have to act under if this gets delayed much further.
I can,
Go ahead, Mike.
are you sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
Interrupt you.
No, that's okay. We can't say act on it now, because that's not in our purview to do. But maybe just take the general feel of the meeting you were at last night, the meeting you're at right now, and maybe just, flip a coin, But Mike, you had something else you want to
Yeah, I
comment?
just think if you have a administrative consent order that's already in place, then you can come back to the board and ask for an amendment to your administrative consent order, an extension to that. I think, that's a reasonable thing to do. And in my opinion, we don't want people who are sort of stuck in this sort of uninstalled purgatory sort of to, if we change these, that we can't sort of go back and address the previous issues, right? So there's not like if you don't meet this in the 6 months, you can't come back to the Board of Health and say, hey, you guys are going through all this process, can I have an extension on my ACO? I think that's reasonable.
Yes. Please identify yourself.
My name is Sarah Maddow, and I've been here before. And I apologize if you've already discussed this. I'm not sure, but I was wondering, because there's a lot of buzz around town, so I'm figuring come to the source. Are the triggers on the table for change?
Yes.
That was what.
That's what this is.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of the meeting. Like, would a bedroom, would new construction, I'm talking about our own thing
You're talking
here.
about the addition,
The
the
mudroom
400?
and the living room, yeah.
More, again, I can't say, until
Sure.
we vote on this, I can't say it's going to be good to go.
Right.
But again, we're leaning on adjusting these so your little mudroom would not trigger
Okay,
any upgrade.
okay, so that is on the table. I just didn't,
Yeah, well, I didn't
Okay.
actually mention that because it's in the definitions. So the definition under what I've proposed reverts back to the definition under Title V state definition, which is adding flow, design flow to an existing system. Design flow meaning an additional bedroom
okay.
beyond what your system capacity is.
okay.
Yeah.
So adding a habitable space would not kick you into another factor.
That would no longer be considered new construction.
Okay,
It would be the state's definition of new construction.
okay, thank you.
Okay. You're
That's
welcome.
helpful, thanks.
Yes, sir. Please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Luke Manning. Thanks a lot. The explanation that you've given makes a lot of sense for a lot of these points. I just was curious if any of you had any thought about at what point reviewing what the town regulations for the sewer hookup may look like, only, and I realize it's miles out, but only because, is it worth thinking about that now? Because we're all of what you're dealing with and looking at is oriented towards hitting these target numbers, and then how do you get the guarantee that you're gonna hit those target numbers with the rate of people hooking onto the sewer, and what the requirements would look like for them to make that hookup? Is it worth looking at all of that at this stage, or is that way down the road?
Tom, could you answer some of the question? Because we're not involved with the sewering side of it, Lou. So, Tom, go for it.
I knew I shouldn't have come. What I can tell you, I don't know right now exactly what those costs are gonna be on the lateral connections. We will have a much better idea of that once we get the sewer use regulations set up for Lawrence Hill Road. We'll know what those costs are gonna be, and we can extrapolate that out. So unless I missed something.
No, and I'm sure your mindset would go right towards the costs associated. I'm more interested in how do we ensure that we're going to hit these numbers, that we're going through all these measures to try to hit at a rate that works with the rate of when people will need to hook up, and what what might trigger people to need to hook up or tie in, or is it just going to be mandatory throughout the sewer system, or at what point do we review this and come up with some sort of rules, even though it's way down the road? Just because everything's oriented towards hitting these target numbers, I think it would come into factor sooner than later.
Let me see if I can stab at that. The town can set their own criteria when a sewer line goes by a house. There is state law also that will require that if it goes by your house, we're going to assess a betterment anyways. That just comes with the territory. You have, I think, up to 5 years. And if you haven't connected within that 5 years, unless the town does something more strict, if you haven't connected in that 5 years, then the town can take action to force a homeowner to connect.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
There's more to it than that, but that's all I can come off the top of my head.
yeah.
There are some provisions in other towns that the Board of Health can actually act upon, where Orleans granted, I mean, I know in Provincetown, they granted people the life of their system if their system was, built after the year 2000 or something like that. But that probably can't happen here. We're not in that situation. We don't have enough connections for that to work out. But in Orleans, what they did was say, if your system is under 10 years old at the time that the sewer passes by your home, you get an additional 10 years. That can kind of, that's a little bit funny of a way to do it. Other towns have done different things. So that's something that's going to have to get looked at. I mean, and those things, because the connections, Mass DEP accepts the nitrogen reduction, the load reduction, upon connection. So as long as you have the connections within the 20 years, you get that load reduction. But we also have to be careful that we're not over-nutrifying our system in the meantime. But if you add a couple homes, you can make up for the ones that are in waiting. And so given our growth rate, we probably would overperform a little bit on the sewer system to make sure we're meeting our numbers in order to compensate for the few systems that are newer, which would have a later hookup date. You'd still have to hook up, but maybe it's within 10 years of it going by instead of 5 or whatever that may be, but that's a possibility. But nothing's set in stone.
And there's an analysis going on right now, aren't we paying for?
There's the analysis, and then the sewer regs also are getting drafted, and there's a sewer commission. So that's really, these questions are better addressed to the sewer commission than to the Board of Health, really, for the sewer, but.
Thank you.
Ken, we have a question online. Do you want me to read that? It's
Yes.
not somebody's hand up, they typed the question. Thank you to the Board of Health for all your work. Not sure if this is something you can answer. how does the contingency zone work? If I want to purchase a house in a contingency zone and upon inspection that home system fails or needs an upgrade, how will this be handled?
Contingency zone, I'm not sure exactly what contingency zone is, but under what I've proposed, which may not remain the same, so I just want to be clear about that. If you buy a home with a failed system that needs to be upgraded, it would have to be upgraded with a retrofit-ready design and engineering, and then an ACO that would compel you to have to upgrade if your property was determined to be required under the targeted watershed management plan. At that point, we would expect to have a much more robust financial assistance available, or public timeline or phased timeline. We don't really know yet, but it's really the alternative. We need to be able to make sure that we have enforceable action on new systems going in the ground as a Board of Health, so that we can meet these targets that are required by DEP. Because the alternative of not doing anything is that we will have to require every property in town to have to upgrade to an IA system, and that will not work. And then we will also be required to sewer on top of that without access to SRF funding. So there's a lot of sticks, and the carrot is that we have time to plan and roll this out in a coordinated way for the town. And the Board of Health is a part of that under the septic systems and sewer tie-in stuff. But other than that, it's a town-led process. So we're going to rely on them.
All right, is there anybody else? Any other questions, Jen?
Nothing online.
Okay, everybody good? All right, so let's make a discussion. What do you think about the idea? Do you want to send this to town council? Let's decide and vote on that. Mike, what are your thought process?
Yeah, I would like to send these to town council, get the ball rolling,
All right.
and schedule a public hearing.
All right. Sarah?
I would support that. I agree.
Casey?
I would also support that.
And I do agree with that. So we don't need to vote on this. It's just I recommend to send this to town council, correct? We don't need to make a motion.
It doesn't hurt.
Okay,
I think we should make a motion.
I make a motion to submit this to town council.
All right, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 4-0.
And then I'd just like to make another motion to set a public hearing.
Well, we would technically have to wait till town council gets back to us before we wanted to set up a public hearing for this. Because if it takes 3 weeks and it's not getting enough time to get it
Yeah.
announced, so.
What if we set a public hearing for 3 weeks from now?
Well, when's our next, we usually hit in the next scheduled meeting.
We do, and if I sent in something tomorrow, it wouldn't be advertised until the 25th of September, and I think we have to have it 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be 2 weeks in the paper. That's why I'm just
That
trying
won't be
to.
enough time. for our
Yeah, I
next
wouldn't
meeting.
expect it to be like in next week or whatever. So it would
are
have to
you
be
aiming-
3 weeks from now, right?
That we could have the public hearing.
That's a much bigger question that can be answered here, because
Sure,
it's
okay.
about,
So why don't we work on that?
Okay.
Figure out when's a good time. Ken, do you mind if I work on that with Jennifer and
No,
just
that's
try and
fine.
figure out a time? Okay.
Okay.
We don't need to make a motion on that then.
No. All right, so next thing is we have some hearings. 75 Herring Road. Is anybody here for that?
Thanks, Tom.
Anybody online?
Well, that's Sarah.
oh, yeah, that's Sarah, but she asked for a continuance.
All right, she asked for, that's right, I'm sorry.
So you have to vote on
Yeah,
continuing.
so we have to vote on the continuance?
Yeah, to the next meeting.
And I'm not able to vote because I wasn't here for.
I think she can vote on the continuance, right? Or,
We were uncertain, I don't know.
Well,
there's nobody here for that,
I
right?
don't think it'll hurt. I mean,
Sarah?
There's
She
just a rule
wants
of
it.
necessity. If nobody, if
Yeah.
there's not enough people here, we have to do it anyways.
Yeah.
You have to.
okay.
So,
Well, this is, there's nobody online for this at all, is there?
I know, Sarah's here,
Oh,
but she
Sarah.
asked for a continuance,
that's
so.
right. I'm
we're
sorry.
just-
Sarah, we know you're here.
Yes,
Yeah, long day. I'm before.
you did a long day.
Jen recommended maybe you pull this to the next meeting. That way, we can all vote on it next time. So if you pull it right now, the new regulation may be taking effect, or some more information may be there. So if you pull it now, we can all vote on it next time, no matter what.
Yeah, I can put it, if
We
you
spoke
ask for it
earlier,
to be
and
removed.
I'd like to wait, yes.
No, what he's saying is you can withdraw your application and then
Resubmit
resubmit
it.
it tomorrow, and then I can re-advertise so that all of these people here.
That-
We can all vote on it.
That way you're guaranteed to have.
Gotcha.
That's the
Okay.
cleanest way to deal
Okay,
with it, really.
so withdraw,
because-
okay.
yeah.
Would you like to
Yes.
ask to withdraw?
I would like to ask to withdraw my building permit application.
So I move to accept the withdrawal.
I second that.
All in favor?
Sorry, who seconded? Thank you.
Sarah? Okay,
So,
you're good to go.
Okay,
Aye.
so if just,
Aye.
send me a new
Everybody has
either
to vote.
email or letter
think we
tomorrow.
That I'm
Maybe I'll
withdrawing.
try.
I
Yeah.
think we also
Okay.
got-
It can be the same letter, just
Okay,
change the date.
all right, thank you.
I heard you, I heard you.
you heard me, okay.
All right, now, 260 Kendrick Ave,
Okay, that one,
He's-
he
he's
also
one.
asked to have it continued?
but there's nobody, we can't get in contact with him, so we just have to continue this one?
Yeah, it's, that one is a better one because Casey was on when that was heard the first time. So if
We
Katie
can
is
do- the
here,
two of
you
us can
you can
vote
do
on
it
it.
easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would it make sense to, we can't withdraw it unless they ask?
Yeah, they have
That's
to
right,
ask to
that's why I'm
withdraw
saying
it.
continue.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion to continue this to our next meeting.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, you can't vote. Abstaining over there? Two abstaining, okay.
Aye. Aye. I said it, just not in my mic, I guess.
All right, so we have present, you got brownies, cabins, and condos. We are trying just indefinitely, continuously, continue
Yeah,
this
we have had no
indefinitely?
contact with them since they put in their request, and I don't even know who the contact person is. Heath was dealing with them, but they haven't come to any hearings. So I think if you want to continue it indefinitely, and then I can try to get in touch with them in the meantime.
Can they withdraw it with you and reapply? If
They
this has been
can-
ongoing for a certain amount of meetings, or some other rules
Some
about
other rule about them,
about people not being able to vote on it that weren't there.
Well, that's
Like,
what
there's a certain
I'm
amount of continuances, and then it becomes, you have to withdraw and reapply. Can you do that administratively? Can we authorize that?
I will
Why-
look into that.
Why don't we authorize you to do that, and then if you can't do it, you can't? No, I think, just to protect it, because
Yeah.
that way, as the board has given her the latitude to do
Okay.
that, then, if it's legal, you can do it. If
Sure.
not, then don't.
All right, you
All right,
present-
well, you were here the 13th, so you can look into that to see if you could do withdraw, but I'll make a motion to continue this one indefinitely.
Yeah.
Sure,
Have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
You-
Aye.
Yeah, you can't talk again.
Aye.
You're just gonna keep saying it. All right, now we have 6 Sergeant, 99 Pole Dyke Way.
What, I'm not allowed to continue it? I think I am. Maybe not. Oh, I have to recuse myself, because they're my abutters, actually.
We have, the person from
Uh,
backyard and you online.
okay.
Oh.
We think.
Yeah, Tim O'Reilly.
Oh, Tim, yeah. I
He
saw-
says he's on.
He is, I saw him before. He put his hand up and then jumped to the top. Okay.
We really hope we don't need this variance. I think that's the, we want to, this is a classic.
All right, well, go ahead, identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Ben Woods. I'm, I guess, the face of the 99 Pole Dyke project, because I'll be the one living there. It's not, I think when you see an LLC, people might think it's some kind of like for-profit business venture, but it's actually just like some good people coming together with a really creative way to make a house more attainable for local folks like me.
Somehow I'm not co-host anymore, which is why I can't let Tim on, so I'm just going to go talk to Gabriel real quick.
Okay. So, again, we're down to the point where we have what's the new regulations that probably be taking effect shortly.
Right.
right at this moment, we can't get the exception, we can't go forward with an exemption because we have the regulations now. And until we adjust them and all the triggers, I don't know if there's anything technically we really could do.
Withdraw it?
Yeah, can they
You
withdraw?
could withdraw it, I guess, well, Jen, what is your thought process on this? You're in the office with Gary all the time, he's talking to you.
Yeah, it might be best to withdraw it, like Sarah did, and just to send me a new, like a letter with a new date. It could be the exact same letter, you could just send it to me, and then we'll have it on for the next hearing, which would be October, and these guys can't vote on it now anyway.
Oh, no one can vote on it, okay,
Yeah,
all right, well,
and I think
Well then.
Tim disappeared.
Well, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah, we hear you now.
It's disabled, but if you can hear me, that's great.
All right, well, Cassie could vote on this,
I could vote,
August 13th,
and I watched
That was the first
July
one?
9th
yeah.
one.
Yeah, I believe where we left last time was you guys were going to review the video.
Yes,
so that
we did.
tonight it would
Yes.
be possible. But if
Okay.
things have changed, let me know.
I did review the video. Unfortunately, our other member is now
Yeah,
out
Katie
sick.
is not here, so there's only two of us.
You see.
And then this is Sarah's
Okay.
first meeting, so,
She has not had a chance to get up to
We're
speed.
in the same scenario as last meeting. Is that right?
unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
So our suggestion is to withdraw this, resubmit it, and hopefully with the new regulations going in, this won't be drug out anymore. That's what I'm
Okay, and I
hoping.
know you mentioned earlier that it may take, 1, 2 months, maybe longer. So if we, for the new regulations to come around, is that accurate?
yeah, but
If we
actually,
withdraw and reapply?
if there are
Are
enough
we then
board
actually-
members, you guys can vote to offer the exemption.
Yeah, we-
You've done it, like, the other board did it before, you
Yeah.
can give them the exemption. So Tim, if you just withdraw, reapply for next time, next month, this board can vote to give you the exemption.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Even though the.
That makes sense,
And then you can move forward.
and Ben is here tonight, who's,
Right.
anxious to move into the house
Anxious
with
to have
his
a home.
family and his daughter, and
yeah.
So, obviously, it's disappointing we can't vote and get a clear answer tonight, but I do thank the board for, obviously, there's a lot of change for your patience and your guidance here.
The way we're looking at it right now is everything that's going to be coming down, hopefully, is going to benefit everybody and the entire town. Unfortunately, we've had a large turnover on the board, and, we usually like to require 3 people here that can hear any type of,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
So, just in case, God forbid, somebody else is sick next week, and Mike obviously cannot vote because he's in a butter, should we have Sarah maybe watch the old video so that she would then maybe be eligible to vote?
Or they can just do a recap when they get here.
Okay.
That would be better than, because you don't want
Can we
to,
do
we're
a
not going to
recap
talk about the
now
old hearing.
While Sarah is here?
No,
Since
because that's
everybody-
still under this hearing.
Okay.
So the cleanest way is to withdraw, and then next week, make your case. It doesn't have to be a very
Next month.
big case. Yeah, next month, sorry. You just make your case again, and then everybody can vote.
So,
And in the interim, in the next couple of weeks, we can be in touch with you guys about what might be moving, what set of rules we might be operating under to help us prepare for the next meeting. Is that,
yes.
no, I'm not holding you to anything, but that is a general idea, how we can help Ben get into his new home.
We would love to make it happen. We wish we could have moved in tomorrow, but unfortunately.
I appreciate that.
So we have to make a motion. No, you want to make a.
We have to
You have
request.
to remove it yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to accept the withdrawal.
Who is requesting this? So
I guess,
I'll request
I
to
guess 6 Sergeant Street.
Tim is-
withdraw our application, 6 Sergeant Street LLC for, yeah.
thank you. Okay, so now you guys make a
You have to
motion.
make a motion now.
I did, oh,
I know, but he
did.
didn't ask for it.
I'm gonna make a motion,
To accept their withdrawal.
I make a motion to accept the withdrawal of their application.
I second that.
All in favor?
I,
You get that. At
I'm
least
so,
Mike- at least Mike
so
wasn't
sorry,
here.
Tim.
Sorry about that. But hopefully, next month, we can get all your problems satisfied.
See you in a
I
month.
sincerely thank you guys for your patience and your guidance. I know there's a lot going on and a lot of change, and thank you.
Get your name. Can you just
Thank
write your
you.
name over
So
Thank
we
you.
have 60 Hiawatha Road.
there? And Tim is here for that. Thank you very much. The other Tim, there are two Tims.
Is there anybody here for that one, Jen?
Yeah, I just promoted him to panelist.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers representing the applicant.
Can we,
So the property is located at 60 Hiawatha. Just to give you a little background, it's currently developed with an existing two-bedroom home serviced by,
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
oh, I'm sorry. Property is located at 60 Hiawatha Road, currently developed with an existing two-bedroom, single-family home serviced by well water and a cesspool. The applicant is proposing to demolish that home, construct a new two-bedroom home, and construct a new Title V septic system and add a nitro denitrification system. We're looking for variances for this new installation of the system. The system is located in the northeast corner of the lot, as far away from the wetlands as possible. So we're looking for a variance from the septic tank and pump chamber from 100 feet to 66 feet, and from the leaching field from 150 feet down to 83 feet. So that's what we're here for tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Jen, did Gary have any thoughts or questions about this at all?
Gary did not, as far as I know. He wrote out the
Yeah, I
easy maker.
saw that.
And as far as this is still being heard by the Conservation Commission, but they are moving toward an agreement.
All right, anybody from the board have any questions?
Yeah, are there Title V variances or are they just local variances?
So it would be local variances.
Okay. So is there a reserve area?
There's no reserve, there's no increase in flow. If there were a reserve, you'd have an even closer location for the leaching field. You know, it's kind of pinned up at that northeast corner to try to stay as far away from the wetland as possible, plus you have all the surrounding wells. So there's kind of a small sliver along that eastern side of the property line where you can put the leaching field.
Okay, the only thing in this, maybe this has to be run, but it's my understanding, and so normally an IA system would not have to be, it wouldn't need a reserve area. But with the provisional use, under the certificate of provisional use for nitro system, it says a system may only be installed to serve facilities where a fully conforming Title V system with a reserve area exists on site or could be built on site in compliance with the design standards for new construction of 310 CMR 15, and for which the site evaluation in compliance with 310 CMR 15 has been approved by the approving authority. A fully conforming Title V system may include other approved alternative technologies in accordance with the conditions imposed on the alternative technologies. So that's in the nitro certificate of approval from DEP. My understanding of that is that you have to be in a full compliance with a conforming Title V system, even though typically an IA system or a Title V system, typically you wouldn't need to do that because you're not increasing flow, but under this provisional use, it appears to me to require a reserve area.
So I believe it would be up to the board to determine whether you're considering this new construction or a tear down and rebuild for a repair. So,
Oh,
I-
well, yeah, I think it's not for new construction, it just has to be in compliance with the design standards for new construction. If that makes sense. So it's I don't know if you have a copy of the,
no, I do.
Certificate.
I think it's kind of one of those gray areas, and
okay,
I'm gonna be honest, all the boards I've been before along the Cape, no one has ever kind of said that. If it was new construction, we would definitely show the reserve, but because it's kind of that tear down and rebuild, for, what we might want to call a repair, no one's really focused on that. So if the board wants to see a reserve, then what you're gonna wind up seeing is just a different variance. It's still gonna be less than the 150, but that 83 feet might be closer to 70 feet, so that, because I'd have to kind of reconfigure some of the tanks to try to get a reserve area up in that northeast corner.
yeah, I'm not trying to, be difficult, I just want to make sure we're in compliance with the use of provisional systems.
Sarah, do you have any questions? Cassie?
Mike, your concern is that this is not in compliance. Even
That's
with
my concern, yeah.
the system itself, the way it's designed, we're not talking about the variances in
Well,
terms of the location, we're talking about the system design.
No, the system design is fine, it's a reserve area that it was questioning.
Other than the reserve area, I think that's the only thing that's missing from the thing. I mean, personally, I'm not that concerned with there having to be a reserve area. You wouldn't require that under other systems, but I know the provisional use permit seems to require it to be in compliance with Title V. It's not really anything to do with our local regulations.
Can we,
So I'm not really sure.
can we take more time to review that, what you just found?
I guess I would just like to know what would change as far as variances are concerned. It would just be local variances that
It
we
would
have to
just be
grant?
correct, it would just be local variance, it would still meet all the state variances.
I mean, I think it's important to make sure that we're in compliance with the state requirements for the provisional systems.
It's absolutely in compliance, because I had a conversation with Gary initially when we were talking about where I was locating this and whether or not, what type of variances we might need, and, we both reviewed it, and no DEP, Title V variances were required, it was just local variances. So even if I kind of reconfigured that to try to add the reserve area in there to resolve that concern, it would be less of the 83 feet that you'd be granting me, but it would still meet all state setbacks.
Would it make sense to confer with?
Yeah, I feel like we need to
I
confer with.
texted him just to see if he would weigh in. I don't know if he's seen it yet.
Well, I'm looking at this, Gary, I don't think he would have approved the motion maker that we have if he wasn't comfortable with the regulations that we have going forward. He's following all state regulations, it's just the town.
No, well, Mike has a question about whether it's in
The
compliance with
concern
state
really is that
regulations.
like, the certification for nitro is specific that, in that certification, and I could be reading it wrong, but my reading of it says that it requires a reserve area. I'll just read it again. The system may only be installed to serve facilities where a fully conforming Title V system where the reserve area exists on site or could be built on site in compliance with the design standards for new construction.
That seems
Or
pretty
could
clear.
be built.
But it has to be in compliance with new, it says new construction.
In compliance with the design standards for new construction. And it says the system may only be installed to serve facilities where a fully conforming Title V system with a reserve area exists on site or could be built on site in compliance with the design standards for new construction.
That's the bit. I hear it too, and I'm not an expert either. I feel like we need to confer with
I mean,
people who are.
I'm not saying like Gary is not following Title V, but there is a difference when it comes to provisional systems and the certificate allowances that are required.
So what about the part that says a fully conforming Title V system may include other approved alternative technologies in accordance with the conditions imposed on the alternative technologies? Would this?
Like an IA system would be fine. I think that's what they're referring to, so, no.
Kathleen Bacon wants to speak. Do you want to let her speak?
Sorry, what was that?
Kathleen Bacon wants to speak.
Sure, go ahead. Kathleen?
Good evening, Board. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I think this is like apples and oranges. It's a very tight lot. It's a very tight northwest corner on this lot. And it's a tear down. It's going to be rebuilt on the footprint, not increasing design flow, so on and so on. The big thing here is it's replacing a cesspool. I would trust Gary Locke's, call on this. I really think you're starting to split hairs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to try to call Gary?
Yeah, please.
I would just feel better, since I'm new, I would feel better just making sure that we've got. Thank you.
Yeah, I got his voicemail.
Yeah, went to voicemail. Oh, okay,
What's the time frame on this? I mean,
They
yeah.
still have to go back to Conscom next week, but I know you guys need to have all the information. I'm not trying to push you into something either, but
yes.
like Kathleen said, Gary knows his stuff, and whenever he has an issue with a project, he always goes through it with me so that I know what's happening. And this one, he did not express any kind of concern. So I think it must be state compliant. But Tim, can you tell us why it's state compliant?
It's state compliant because it's, that minimum setback from the top of the bank for the Legion Field needs to be 50 feet, and it's 83 feet, and it needs to be 25 feet to the tanks,
But
and
we're
it's
not-
66 feet.
Sure, I agree that the system's fully compliant except for the requirement to have a reserve area exist on site.
So that reserve area is about 12 feet wide, so even if I came forward 12 feet, that 83 feet goes down to 60, sorry, goes down to 71 feet. So it's still well over the 50 feet.
Right, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think we can make local variances on this. I don't think we can go beyond what's required under a fully conforming, under the certificate of provisional approval. I don't think that we can go more lenient than what the state's requiring on the installation of a nitro system, which requires the system may only be installed to serve facilities where a fully conforming Title V system with a reserve area exists on site or could be built on site in compliance with the design standards for new construction. So I guess we could say it could be built if you can show us where it could be built, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it would be basically, those tanks would probably slide a foot or so closer together, and I would kind of rotate that leaching field a little bit, and the reserve area would be right to if you're looking at the plan, to the right of the tanks, in between the tank and the shed.
Okay.
So again, I can supply an exhibit to Gary so he has it for the file. I could probably get that over to you tomorrow. I know that doesn't.
I would be comfortable if you know you can get a reserve area in there to just make sure that we're compliant with the certificate. I would be comfortable. I don't know if we can vote on it without seeing it in here, but.
So just to clarify, what you're asking is that he submit a drawing, a plan, that shows that there's space for that, and then we can check with Gary whether or not that's a requirement.
Ken, what does the easy motion maker say about the reserve area? Does it say that there's a reduction in it? It's toward the top? No? Okay.
I don't see any reserve.
Because normally if there's a reduction in reserve area, it's actually noted on the,
Yeah, I think typically it wouldn't require a reserve area because they're not actually,
Doing new
they're not actually doing, adding any flow, or doing, but the problem is that under the certificate for nitro, it requires the reserve area
To be in compliance with
for provisional use. And I think when those become approved for general use, that will probably drop off.
Well, half the time, there are a lot of plans that we get that have no reserve area.
Well, most of the time they don't
No,
need them.
most of the plans do not. The Nitrex is just a different animal that we have coming at us right this moment. We can approve a plan if we wanted to, if it gives a new plan, gets it to Gary, dated for tomorrow. We can approve this tonight for him to have a new plan to show to Gary.
We can condition it on.
The education,
submission.
yeah, that he has a new plan and to Gary tomorrow. Tim, can you do that okay?
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can get it done. I'll get it over to Gary tomorrow. I'll send it to Gary and Jen.
Okay, I'm glad it can fit in there. I mean,
So
I think that's.
when you-
Yeah, it definitely can. It's not a problem.
when you read the easy motion maker, just make sure you add at the end with the condition.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion. This is one thing I hate being chair. I don't like talking. Okay, I like people. I put my 2 cents in when I need to, but I like other people talking. So I'm going to move to approve Merrill Engineers Plan 24-446 dated 7/2. No, it'll be dated 7/11/25. It'll be 9/11/25 for tomorrow's date, the new plan.
No, the plan probably was given to us on 7.
Okay, so it'll be the new plan dated 9/11/25.
The new plan, I'm
The
sorry.
new plan would be
Yes.
dated tomorrow.
Yes.
And grant the 2 variants requested in the letter for the upgrade or construction of a septic system to serve 2-bedroom structure, grandfathered non-conforming dwelling with respect to nitrogen loading. For IA technology using nitro denitrification technology under provisional. You see, he underlined it, okay? Give me a break. Stop it right now. For new construction, okay, subject to the following conditions. Design flow limited to 243 gallons per minute, per day to serve 2 bedrooms. Habitable area, no increase without Board of Health approval. Conversion, no conversion of use without Board of Health approval. Well testing, existing system to be pumped and filled, abandoned or removed. Deed recording, IA monitoring per Wellfleet standard. Testing perimeters and DEP requirements. I'm learning this writing here too as we're going along here. And we have annual inspection of pumps, alarms, and other equipment, and have the new plans approved by Gary on dated 9/11/25. So I made a motion, I'm asking for a second.
Yeah, can I just make a friendly amendment? And that the plans submitted to Gary don't have additional Title V variances, which would need to return.
Well, I think you kick it, I think we probably don't necessarily need that because Gary will kick that
All
back
right,
to us
fine.
as soon as possible. So could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No, none.
Okay. All right. So,
Thank you.
yeah, just
Thank
get
you
that.
for your time.
Yeah, get that plan to Gary tomorrow.
Yep, not a problem at all. Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
All right, so we have new business. Is there anything in here interesting?
No, that's just the file for that property.
Okay, good. I would like to ask for, anybody have anything want to talk about tonight? Good? The next public hearing is October 8th, is that what it is? All right, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you for your help.
Recording stopped.